name is MaryAnn Burton, and today we'll be talking about wedding cultures and traditions of ancient Rome. Do you know this person? Happy wife, happy life. He is a comedian who registered and coined his phrase that everyone knows. Clinical psychologist Shuri Cohen at Massachusetts General Hospital says, man cannot identify when the wife is angry or upset. So, this happens. King Solomon in the Holy Bible says in Proverbs 18:22, he who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord. Today I'm going to inform the audience about Roman wedding customs and traditions. I will inform the process and preparation of Rome marriage in ancient Rome. And wedding customs and traditions that begin in ancient Rome, in the ancient Rome culture, are very much in the culture today. And because Italy is a land of love, I will begin with Italy's engagement ring tradition. Marriages and ceremonies in ancient Rome were not inspired by love, romance, or physical attraction. Before the wedding was formalities. There was 3 things that were needed: an engagement ring, dowries, and a contract. Hence the prenuptials that are in today's world and culture. In ancient Rome, all marriages were prearranged marriages. The ceremonies took place in the father's home because the father's the one who had the dowry to pay for the wedding, and he would have to pay the groom a dowry, which it all contained it. But the most important part of the marriage in ancient Rome was the written contract that had to be signed. Both sides of the families had to agree on dowry. Wedding date was very important, and when all was said and done and everyone signed, which also had to be signed with no less than 10 in the party, which was the bridesmaids, then the agreement was sealed with a kiss by the bride and groom to be. The groom gave the bride to be an iron band and put it on her right finger as a public mark that she was now his property, leaving the father. The formal legal binding contract was signed by the families. The wedding date is set, and mostly in the month of June, because Roman goddess Juno is the guardian of marriage, home, and childbirth, which made June an important month. The second step, 3 acts of expressing consent from the bride were that she had to show public consent by holding her husband's hand. The 10 witnesses of the bridesmaid had to also make the marriage legal, and the bride had to consent at the time of the ceremony by chanting "Quando tu Gaius es Gaius," which means, "Where you are my husband, I am your wife." After the words of consent, the bride and the groom clasped hands. The mother of the bride put the hand over the husband and wife and blessed the marriage and called it a marriage. After the offering was made to the god Jupiter, which consisted of cake, and cake not of which we think of, it is a wheat cake that was actually a sign of fertility. The priest made the offering, and the cake was eaten by the bride and groom. This is the mother that prepares her daughter the night of the day of the wedding. Okay, the guests congratulated the couple and go to the bride's home for a feast. And the dinner ended with the passing of cake. So now let's discuss what happens after the reception. The wedding procession begins, and the bridal party walks the bride to her new home with the party in tow. 2 boys each hold the hands of the bride, and one in front with a marriage torch that lights the way to her new home, her new husband's home. All the while, the wedding party are shouting insults and singing rude songs, and this is until they get to the home of the husband. The husband hears that his wife is here, asks her to come in. She lights a torch. She lights a fire in her home with the marriage torch that was lit on the way there, blows out the torch, and then tosses it into the crowd, much like the bride throws their bouquet. At this point, the Romans were very superstitious. Once the bride severed her relation from her father, which means she had no protection from the evil spirits. Only the protection that she had was an amulet on her neck, which she then gave back to the father for the deities of the house that took care of the spirits. The bride was escorted to the husband's house, always, because the husband, again superstitious, feared that whatever was on her, evil spirits would happen to go into the home. So the reason the bridesmaids and the guests would hurl insults and sing rude songs was to confuse the demons. So they wouldn't know who is the bride and who is the groom, which is also the reason that they dress very similar in attire, the bridesmaids. Okay, once that she is accepted, the husband carries her over the threshold, which is very superstitious also because they fear, once again, that she may bring in spirits into the household. All right, so let's talk about ancient Romans traditions concerning wedding outfit. The bride wore a white tunic. It wasn't fancy, it was just white. Everything was white except for the veil of the bride. The bride's veil and shoes matched. They were actually a yellowish, reddish veil that would cover her face. The wedding party and reception was an essential part of the ceremony. Of course, Romans believed that demons were always out to get the couple. So before the wedding even took place, the diviners would come in and clear the father's house of any evil spirits. It was customary for the bride and groom to shatter a vase. As many pieces that were laid on the ground was said to be the amount of years that they would have of happiness. It was also symbolic that a couple would saw a log. This showed a sign of unity, how they would be working together throughout their marriage. The wedding cake originated in ancient Rome, the wheat offering, not the Italian cheesecake. And also the white candied almonds were custom, which we know as Jordan almonds. Bittersweet because of the candy that was sweet and the almond that was bitter. Part of life. Let's conclude by summarizing the wedding customs and traditions of ancient Rome and reiterating Jeff Allen's and remembering happy wife, happy life. So the Roman marriage were prearranged, dowries, iron engagement ring, and a written contract, and it was sealed with a kiss. Then they moved on to the reception, which was at the father's house. The Romans were very superstitious, but they protected the bride throughout the phases of her not being protected until she was into the home of the husband. Today's Western culture has incorporated and adopted many of the wedding customs and traditions that are sacred or superstitious in nature from ancient Rome. Marriage is a serious commitment between two people in any culture. In the words of Austrian musical composer Franz Schubert, happy is a man who finds a true friend, and far happier is he who finds that true friend in his wife. With that in mind, this should be the result of a happy couple, which Talasio is a congratulatory greeting for the couple, or from this. And finally, that. Thank you for coming. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes. Why is the bride always to the left of the groom?
Well, in ancient days, it was always a war going on, and they had to be ready with their knives at hand for the fear of someone just coming and taking the wife or the girlfriend or whatever. Even at the altar, they would do this. So at any point in time, the groom would be ready to just swoosh that knife out and go at it. So that is why that is where the bride stood at his left, safe from any sword action. Anything else? Yes.
Yes, I have a question. What is meant by tie the knot?
Tie the knot, as opposed to untying the knot. Tie the knot refers to the bride's, ancient Rome's bride tunic that was worn during the wedding. The sash was tied around her waist, a nice golden sash, made in the knot called the Herculean type knot, which is very strong and bound, and took a very strong person to unravel it, so to speak. And Hercules was a guardian of a wedding life. So it was only the husband's duty to be able to have that to himself, to untie it. Hence, tie the knot is better to use than untie the knot. There are no other questions? Are we done?